More than 68% of South Asian women experiencing homelessness cite domestic violence as a primary cause. This is a little overview of a map to understand South Asian communities and where they're coming from, and a little bit of stats of within, and the majority of within New York City specifically. So Bangladeshis are 35.1%, the majority, which leads to Queens. The age group, majority of South Asian women face domestic violence between ages 30 to 40. It ranges between under 20, and the majority you can see is from here. What are the root causes? Cultural taboo and stigma. Divorce stigma, whether it's caste and class oppression, the patriarchy and power dynamics, the rigid gender roles where women are blamed, the religion misabuse, or using religion as a method and using, like, forcing women to be in subservient roles and allowing them, or forcing them to be in these moments where they're forced to just please a man for themselves. And yeah, so, and then the honor and shame that comes within this, and facing the internal shame and guilt and the mental disorders, and many of them leading to the suicidal notes, and many cases do end up in suicides, unfortunately. So these are some of the overall risk factors that takes away. So childhood custody battles, financial security, lack of education and degree, especially for immigrant women that are coming from another country and are forced to be here and are dependent on their husbands. There's legal dependency and having legal needs, and then the lack of community. And I really wanted to focus on the lack of community because I think it's important to allow these women to have a transitional space, which I'll get into further. And so, yeah. And these are all of the programs that are for domestic violence in New York City, but they all have issues that they're not still addressing. And after a thorough investigation and speaking with a couple of the shelters, I got the chance to understand why this is an issue and realize that transitional housing is where the importance is lacking and the need is needed. So furniture poverty is one of the main one that comes when you are in a shelter. It's just a bare bones room. There's nothing inside of it, and so that was one of the main ones that I wanted to address. And then of course there's restrictions, whether it's food restrictions, language barrier, and then it goes to therapy. Like, there's no access to therapy, and especially going through these such traumatizing environments, it's a lot to take in. And then short-term housing. Long-term housing is not as bad, but versus short-term housing, where the majority of these do offer, but within short-term housing, it's around 7 to 18 months longer, and that's the only time, and they're very strict between that and what you can do and can't do within those programs. And then having cultural comfort. For a lot of South Asian women, you don't have a community. You don't know, you're out of here. You're especially moving from India or Bangladesh, coming here. It's specifically even much harder in having that cultural comfort, whether it's having a familiar face around or making a community. And I think that's another important. And of course, legal needs. These are overall some design needs and approaches that I came throughout my pieces. And so I'm just highlighting specific ones. So I will be trying to create a space for freedom in a controlled space. Dupatta, which is a fabric of familiar motifs. Agency of personalizing. Micro-communal areas and minimal large open spaces. So this is one of the proposals that I have for a micro-communal space. Instead of having a traditional living area, this is much more comfort and smaller, for more intimate, to allow these women to kind of gather and speak and have a community that is more welcoming. It's just some, these are just some ranges to allow you to have, and so I have a couple different proposals, like this one, where it can be more individual and you're reflecting, and it's more comfortable and allows you to have a little nook specifically for single use. And this is just an overview of having the dupatta, which is like the fabric all around, so kind of allows them to have this relaxation. And this is a bedroom where I have various layouts, and you can have this millwork that pushes and moves on tracks, and all the furniture is on wheels, so you can move around the furniture however you like, and that allows agency over your life, especially being in these tough situations. And so this is the overall another nook where you can be in a booth and experience having this community with the rest of the women. Thank you guys.
Hi, my name is Sophie Buckingham. So throughout this presentation, I invite you to ask yourself, how can design help the homeless connect to needed services? Who are the homeless in New York City?
Homelessness. Where do I start? Okay, well, it's bigger than you think. It's tougher than you can imagine. I survived the cold by going alone, staying by myself, and finding my spots. Last night I slept downstairs in the train station, sir.
Tell me about Amy and Feed the Streets, New York.
Amy and Feed the Streets. Let me tell you something about this woman. She's heaven sent. Come on, I'm having soup, hot on a cold day. The soup is good too, by the way. I'm getting clothes. I had no socks, man. Now I have socks.
What was the control thing? Thank you. So more than 3,500 people are without homes in New York City tonight. If this man can be impacted by hot soup and new socks, imagine what a program could do for him. The Coalition for the Homeless says approximately 1 in 106 New Yorkers are experiencing homelessness, and the scale of this crisis demands comprehensive solutions. Many homeless are employed but unable to afford rent. People are homeless in New York City not because of personal failure, but because of systems meant to protect them that are broken or missing entirely. Why end homelessness for the world? These are Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations that are focused here. And in the background, we can see that the more red-shaded countries show higher poverty levels in the world. And why end homelessness for the people? Supporting homeless will improve human dignity, public health, the economy, and social stability, which I believe is designing for aging and beyond. Why should we end homelessness for New York City? This is a cost comparison with the supportive housing being around $20,000 per person yearly, and a psychiatric hospital at $200,000. New York City Health says placing a chronically homeless in supportive housing saves an average of $10,100 per person yearly, compared to leaving them unhoused. So instead of spending more to keep someone in the cycle of ER visits, jail, and shelters, promoting supportive housing breaks this cycle and actually costs less. While programs exist for food and shelter and support, they remain disconnected, lacking a single system to tie them together. So why is there a problem in the system now? This is what I found missing: stability, unified service centers, mental health access, permanent housing options, and simple application processes. And the current needs are human dignity, safe housing, healthcare, hygiene access, job training, and emotional support. With current programs existing, I have designed to connect these services with help from partner organizations to work with New York City. In this program, ongoing funding is provided by the MTA to assist unsheltered homeless and to support in permanent housing. Next, food is provided to the person to nourish them through a partnership with City Harvest in New York City. And then shelter is given in collaboration with the Coalition for the Homeless. And finally, support services are provided by Care for the Homeless and Services for the Underserved, which include employment help, mental and physical health care, and rehabilitation. So by integrating support services, we can create seamless connections between these programs. So while observing many issues homeless face, I found that there are many services available, but how would the homeless know that they exist? This wayfinding system helps New York City unsheltered homeless individuals access support programs by locating essential services more independently, while reducing reliance on NYPD, emergency rooms, and crisis-driven interventions. So in this example, the system is displayed on the seating of the MTA subway car, where unsheltered homeless currently often lay during cold and late nights. And in this design, words and icons guide the homeless to support by saying, "Help is here, find shelter, food, and care today, and ask an MTA worker in station." Many unsheltered homeless do not have phones, but a QR code is displayed to help spread the word among fellow New Yorkers. And here, this is a public bench with the wayfinding system displayed on the sidewalk where New Yorkers often sit or walk by. And it says, "From the street to support, you've got options. Follow the arrows for 1 block." And the arrows repeat with the similar visuals on wayfinding path, which leads to the support location site nearby. And here we can see that on subway columns, it says "Shelter ahead" and includes buttons for urgent help, food, shelter, and support service. And when a button would be pressed, a support service employee would be able to communicate by speaking with the person in need of support. And if the button is pressed multiple times, an employee of the support service would come assist them at the exact location. So New York City has the potential to be a global case study. And if this wayfinding system works for unsheltered homeless here, it can be implemented into cities around the world. So I invite to ask yourself again, how can design help the homeless connect to needed services? And I'd love to hear your thoughts or ideas, which I think we'll do at the end. So thank you.
Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Ritu Bhargava. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to be talking to you about rebuilding community in rural mill towns in New England. I want to begin by asking for a show of hands if any of you have ever visited a rural mill town. Oh, wow. Okay, so a lot of you will know what I'm talking about, which is great. So for over a decade, I've been visiting my husband's family in Claremont, New Hampshire, and have always been amazed by the impressive mill buildings against the backdrop of the beautiful nature. Yet there's also an eerie sense of emptiness, of being past the town's heyday. My husband and I would wander around town picturing past glories and wondering if it will ever return authentic to its residents. On many of these visits, we would meet with his aunt and her family, and no matter how much I praised the town on its beauty, the response is always, "Yeah, but Claremont is a dying town." But let's take a step back and use Claremont as a common example of the Northeast declining mill town. Growing out of the Industrial Revolution of the 1800s, Claremont's many hydropowered mills led to its development as an extremely prosperous mill town. Through a sketch of the neighborhood, we can see the river dividing the natural world on the left and the historic mill district on the right. But as industry moved down south in the 60s and 70s, these small towns began to see economic decline. The rise of big box stores like Walmart has displaced community businesses and hollowed out the downtown. This has led many young people to move to the cities, and those who stayed saw the opioid epidemic hit rural New England harder than anywhere else in the country. So the baby boomer population is aging while the area has been losing its youth. How can design come into play? Well, key programming can stimulate intergenerational connection and connection with the natural world that gave rise to this town. This can reclaim community dignity and foster community engagement. And multi-generational living and multi-generational housing and intergenerational connection can have many benefits. Does anybody want to give me a suggestion of maybe a benefit that they think could come out of intergenerational connection? You can go ahead and shout it out. This is where somebody says something. Childcare.
Childcare.
Childcare, great, good answer. Okay, that was enough, we can move on. So for the elderly, it combats loneliness and it actually pushes off degenerative diseases. There's science behind that. I won't get into it now. For parents, it's a buffer against poverty. There's built-in childcare, thank you, volunteer, as well as household help. And for children and youth, it really improves their empathy and communication skills. So essentially, community is stronger when different generations come together. So looking at the context of a local mill on the river, we can activate an empty space in between the two buildings to stimulate intergenerational connection towards the goal of rebuilding community. So a memory garden can help engage older populations who suffer from degenerative diseases, and a natural playground gets youth involved and connected with their natural surroundings. Placing these programs together, we make room for spontaneous interaction and connections. Using AI as a brainstorming tool, we can start to visualize how this otherwise abandoned space could be leveraged to create a memory garden and playground space. Key features of a memory garden include fences to ensure nobody gets lost, shaded seating, and wide paths. For improved cognitive functioning, increased socialization, and decreased symptoms like anxiety, there's healing features within the garden. That includes meandering paths, raised beds that you can actually garden in, sensory planting that you can touch, smell, and stimulate your memory, as well as water features. And programming can lead to intergenerational connection through playgrounds with nearby seating, as well as raised beds where there can be intergenerational connection through learning and teaching opportunities of gardening. Through a well-designed memory garden and playground, we can combat loneliness, push off degenerative diseases, improve communication for youth, and reconnect with the natural environment, ultimately rebuilding community and intergenerational connection in rural New England. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessie. I'm excited to present my project, the on-site creating soundscapes for the visually impaired. And this might be how a visually impaired person sees the first slide. And according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2022, about 18.4% of U.S. adults are blind or having difficulty seeing, so that's over 8 million people in total. And initially, I learned about a group from a TV show about visually impaired girls' daily life, and it really touched me. I realized that they are living in a world that is designed for sighted people, but there are many obstacles for people with visual impairment. For example, it's hard for them to catch a bus, and sometimes the bikes are blocking the tactile pavement, and it's very easy for them to get lost in public space. And to get to know more about the group, I'm volunteering at Visions, which is a community center for the blind and visually impaired. And I'm very honored to have my supervisor join us today. Oh, yeah. So at Visions, I got to talk to many visually impaired people and learn that they always need help with things that we take for granted as sighted people. For example, they need help with finding a seat in the room and going to public space. And but in the music concerts, crowd making workshops, and dance classes, they show a lot of love to art and music. So I like to share the story at Lincoln Center, which is like an iconic, welcoming, diverse, and inclusive venue in New York City. And it even has its own accessibility department. But once I saw a visually impaired person got lost on campus, so I determined to improve the design in Lincoln Center to make it more accessible for visually impaired people. So by creating oral and tactile soundscapes for the visually impaired, this project explores subtle sensory accentuated engagement and navigational methodologies in spatial interventions in Lincoln Center. And I'm going to show my design in the Gaffin Hall lobby and underground at Jeff Drive. And based on my research, I'm developing my design strategies covering 4 aspects: acoustics, materiality, tactility, and color contrast. So our first stop is the David Geffen Hall lobby. It is like a living room in Lincoln Center for people to hang out. And to respect the essence of Lincoln Center, I've kept my interventions minimal. And here I changed the floor material, the furniture layout, and added acoustic structures to affect sound in the lobby. And I'm proposing 3 different soundscapes in the space. And the idea is to provide clear acoustic navigation cues and showing the atmosphere to visually impaired people by arranging the sound they could hear, so they could know what's happening in this area and could engage with the activities. And I'd like to show you the soundscape I'm proposing at the entrance with the sound I edited. In this area, there are 2 continuous acoustic structures extended to below and become a bench facing to the fountain outside. The original design of big glass panels intended to visually connect indoor and outdoor, so I'd like to reflect the fountain sound outside within this area, so people who are sitting on the bench can clearly hear when people open the door. And the outdoor floor material is extended to this area, so the footsteps sound will be similar to the outside. And, so when people are going to the area in the middle, this is the sound they are going to hear. So in this area, baffles are installed to diffuse the talking sound to create a soundscape of people softly talking with background music. The cork tiles on the floor allow people to hear soft footsteps of others, and the carpet sketches out the path that lead people to the quiet zone. And here's the sound I'm proposing in the quiet zone in the back. Immersively enjoy the music. The glass panels form acoustic boundaries in this area that is not visually blocking people's sight. The existing huge screen allows visually impaired people to look at the performance really closely, which is an exceptional experience in the city. So I like to show the continuous sound in this space when you are walking through it. So you can feel the change of sound when you are walking through. And this place was originally the entrance of the underground parking lot, but is not in use now. So I repurposed it as a dancing venue for both dancing events and dancing performances. The existing metal wall material is kept to reflect sound. The curb was removed and the stone tile flooring is extended to make dance steps loud and clear. There are thin steel panels on the floor connecting to the seats, which are made of light bioplastic, so the vibration of the movement can be transmitted to the audiences. And the thin steel is also connected to the railing above, responding to the current design concept of Lincoln Center inside out, so people could feel it from upstairs. So when the space is used as a dance floor, the metal on the ground can also make people be aware of other people's movement. The seating can be flipped up, and the edge of it becomes a texture that visually impaired people can follow and do some dancing gestures. And the lighting can be changed to accommodate different uses of the space. And initially I was focusing on navigation and wayfinding for visually impaired people like many other projects. But after really meeting the visually impaired people, I really want to bring the joy to them. So I hope design could eventually create a fun world that blind and visually impaired people could explore equally and independently. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Melina Rodriguez, and I'm going to be presenting my project about rehabilitation. So during this presentation, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Many traditional care facilities prioritize efficiency over comfort, leading to environments that can feel sterile or impersonal. This institutional atmosphere may not provide the warmth and familiarity that families desire for their loved ones. Modern rehab facilities are recognizing this gap and are moving forward towards creating spaces that are more home-like, promoting autonomy and independence for residents. 2, isolation. Social isolation and sensory deprivation are significant concerns in elderly care. Regular family involvement and thoughtfully designed communal spaces can greatly enhance residents' emotional well-being, reducing feelings of loneliness and depression. 3, needs versus preference. Family participation in care planning and decision-making is crucial. Active collaboration between families and care staff ensures that the care provided aligns with the residents' values and preferences, leading to more personalized and effective support. So the problem that we're looking at is mobility and pain management challenges, with aging often leads to arthritis, muscle stiffness, and reduced mobility, making traditional physical therapy very challenging. So some background on this topic. I chose this project after reading an article early on in the semester about what baby boomers want in a retirement home, and then applying it to my personal life at home where my grandfather is in a wheelchair with limited mobility and watching how that affects him each and every day, as well as experiencing accessibility issues myself back in 2022 when I broke 4 bones in my leg and couldn't walk for 6 months. Being in a city that relies solely on walking was very hard for me, and I noticed how not only was the city very inaccessible to people with mobility issues, but many rehabilitation centers were not as accessible as they thought they were. So taking this concept and applying it to design for people with aging really helped me see things from a different perspective. The site that I chose was the Orchard Beach Pavilion in the Bronx, with a population size as of 2023, approximately 15.3% of Bronx residents are age 65 and older, equating to around 199,000 individuals, which marks a 35% increase since 2011, which is one of the fastest growth rates among New York counties. Despite drawing 1.6 million summer visitors, the facility offered no winter or off-season programming, leaving the space doormat much of the year. And they also have a bathhouse pavilion, which this is included in as well. So some key statistics to think about are rehabilitation utilization, which approximately 20% of older adults in the US utilizing these services annually, including physical, occupational, or speech therapy. Falls are a significant concern, with 30% of individuals age 65 and older experiencing a fall each year, and about 10% of falls result in serious injuries such as fractures or head trauma. So these are some of the design approaches that I will be taking throughout my design. So accessibility, thinking about seamless transitions which allow for open layouts with wide step-free pathways to ensure smooth mobility, and having curved and organic forms which will help avoid sharp edges in furniture, reflecting water's fluidity while improving safety, as well as anti-slip surfaces and moisture control. Water. Water represents continuity, renewal, and serenity, all essential for fulfilling environment. By integrating gentle curves and flowing movement, the rehabilitation center supports both physical health and emotional comfort, making it a sanctuary for aging with dignity and grace. By allowing heated pools with adjustable depth for different therapy needs, underwater treadmills and resistance jets to aid mobility training, and zero entry access, lift assisted seating for ease of movement. Lighting. Adaptive lighting, circadian rhythm lighting that mimics natural daylight cycles to help regulate mood that helps with aging throughout the space. Tech integration. By having smart home features such as voice-activated controls for lighting, climate, and security to support independence, as well as temperature-regulated pools and smart monitoring systems to ensure comfort and safety. Social gathering. Flexible gathering spaces, open communal areas with adaptable furniture and group activities that allow for quiet reflection, as well as spaces designed for visiting family, including playful water features for grandchildren or strengthening emotional well-being. So my design proposal, in order to promote both physical and emotional rehabilitation, has a high priority on mobility, intelligent automation, and personalized therapy that experiences and accommodates users with impairments or age-related mobility concerns that kind of steers away from the institutional rehabilitation centers that we have now. Some benefits of hydrotherapy, which are pain relief, increased circulation, enhanced muscle strength, faster recovery from injuries and surgeries, and reduced swelling. And the solution to these, which are warm water therapy and resistance pools, which provide the low impact rehabilitation, which helps ease the movement while reducing joint strain. So on arrival, this rehab pavilion built directly along the coastline, which is close enough to integrate real ocean water and atmosphere, but with a fixed foundation for greater stability, safety, and year-round access. I want to include an aromatherapy lounge, which reduces anxiety and depression, promotes relaxation and better sleep, pain management, and have a respiratory support as well with eucalyptus and tea tree oils that can help clear nasal passages, support immune function, as well as neuropathic pain. Having a hydrotherapy pool, which is ocean fed and UV treated as well, with adjustable smart flooring for water depth and resistance, and having gentle ramp entry, underwater handrails, and side support chairs. And then after having a private hydrotherapy spa, which is quiet and closed for individuals with assisted therapeutic soaking, bathing, that also has ramp access instead of step access, which is unlike communal pools, and provides a personal experience ideal for these adults. Lastly, having a social gathering, which is a bright, airy indoor-outdoor space for communal meals, music, games, and conversation, as well as having family gatherings and visits within this space. Thank you.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Lily, and I'm the last one, so no worries. So my project is about hybrid urban livings. So it is a proposal to reimagine top floors of a Manhattan office tower as an adaptive living working space, designed not just for flexibility, but for inclusion and aging in place. So first start with why I plan to take this project. The first motivation is to addressing the office space vacancy. As you can see the data I provided here, there's nearly a 20% of office vacancy in New York City, especially after the pandemic. And this kind of situation is also increasing nowadays. And the second motivation is about tackling the housing crisis, because the New York government says by the 2030s, we need to have more than 500,000 new units for the increasing populations. And so that is also the two problems coexist in the civilians, and that contradiction is exactly where this project begins. And the third motivation is about, I'm also thinking about designing for the Asian peoples, and I'm also thinking about they might feel a bit left behind because we didn't think about their needs. So I want to also integrate their thinking into my project. And second, about my target users who. And my target users are basically about digital nomads and the mobile workers. There are professionals who work remotely or more frequently between cities due to short-term jobs or freelancer work and hybrid roles, and aging older adults or the individuals with disabilities or who wants to stay independent in cities. These two groups may be seen as two separate groups, but it's just a same group in different periods of time in life. And also think about what will be the challenges in the interiors. First is about accessible challenges, like lack of flexible housing, ADA not containing older building stock, and the social isolation in traditional office or apartments. And the third is how I'm going to solve this question. So I take on one side as an example, which is the Pratt Plaza located in Midtown Manhattan. Yeah, so my design transformed the top 10 floors of the Pratt Plaza into a hybrid mode of living, working, ADA-ready design. These floors, originally commercial, are ideal for flexible planning because of their wide open plans and existing core infrastructure. And my core strategies is basically these three parts, like working live integration, ADA-ready design, and AI-powered flexibility. And I take one floor as an example, like how I'm going to divide this space. So it's basically three parts. Private living units is about 65%, and shared working space is 20%, and the space between the social areas is about 15%, and another 10% for the circulations. And the total square feet is about 35,000 square feet. So here's a plan to show you more clearly about how I'm going to divide the space. The green area is for the living units around the windows, and the pink area is the space in between the social lounge area. And the blue area is the office space where I keep the original scene. And here's more pictures to show these three different types of space. And to help you to more understand my thinkings, I also create an inclusive journey from arrival to living. Like if you are a person with disabilities, that's first you enter from the elevators, and there will be an AI guidance to show where to go, and it will take us on the floors or the walls. And so here is an image to show how it's moving through the lounge area, or the space in between, and also the working area. And then finally, you can enter in your private units where all furniture is with the ADA policies. And also here is a more clear section view to show you how you're gonna go through this 3 different types of place. And also how I'm going to integrate flexible furnitures and all the ADA stuff into the living units. So in conclusions, I think my key objectives are these 4 parts, like the housing pressure reduction, office visualizations, and a flexible lifestyle and mixed use environments. So by doing this, what is my expected impact is that to really to solve the housing shortages in New York cities, and also to offer new economic models without fully functional routes, and to shift the office buildings towards sustainability, hybrid use architecture, and to foster informal collaborations and daily interactions among residents and workers. Thank you, that's all.
That's it, right?